In many of the countries where peacekeeping operations are deployed, conflict-related sexual violence and gender-based violence, CRSV and GBV, are occurring at significant and sometimes very high levels. That's the case in Mali, Central African Republic, South Sudan, and Democratic Republic of Congo. The mandates of the peacekeeping operations in these countries do focus on protection of civilians and include mandates specifically for the peacekeepers to respond and prevent conflict-related sexual violence. Peacekeeping missions don't always have the personnel to fulfill that mandate. For example, in many of those large peacekeeping operations, only around 4% of the troops deployed are female. And female peacekeepers, in many cases, they're the ones who are going to have an easier time accessing and engaging female victims and survivors of violence. Similarly, training is another issue. Many personnel deployed to peacekeeping missions don't have extensive training or a strong understanding of CRSV and GBV. But increasing the number of women peacekeepers deployed to missions and improving training are long-term fixes. There are a lot of challenges to addressing those issues. CIVIC's research indicates that in the short term, having personnel deployed to peacekeeping missions who are gender specialists really improves the ability of peacekeeping operations to protect civilians and address CRSV and gender-related issues. So for example, peacekeeping operations have women protection advisors who, among their many other tasks, can record, investigate CRSV and GBV incidents and can look at trends in those attacks. And they have gender advisors who can push all the sections of a peacekeeping mission to disaggregate their data on violence against civilians and to mainstream gender into their work. And there's also force gender advisors on the military side who are really vital. So even though there are women protection advisors and gender advisors who are civilian staff of the peacekeeping mission, oftentimes military and civilian components of the peacekeeping mission speak a bit of a different language. And so force gender advisors can translate the analysis on hotspots of sexual violence to the military side of the mission. They can ensure that the directives and the orders and the operational planning documents that tell peacekeepers what to go and do include considerations of gender and conflict-related sexual violence. For example, many of the troops going out on patrol are going on routine patrols or routes that aren't always linked to a specific protection threat or incident. Force gender advisors can try to ensure that those patrols go out to areas where there have been reports of CRSV or that are CRSV hotspots. They can take information from the civilian sections of the mission and try and bring it in front of those military planners who are making these types of decisions. There's been intense pressure against peacekeeping budgets over the last several years. So despite how important these roles dedicated to gender are in peacekeeping operations, and despite the fact that they represent a relatively small amount of the peacekeeping budget, member states sometimes push back against these positions in budget negotiations. CIVIC's research has continuously demonstrated the value of gender-specific positions in peacekeeping operations. At a minimum, member states should continue to fund existing positions for force gender advisors, women protection advisors, and gender advisors. Force gender advisors are also often only deployed on 6-month or 9-month rotations, which can limit their effectiveness. A step in the right direction would be member states extending those rotations so that at a minimum, force gender advisors are deployed for 1-year rotations. Given that in the larger peacekeeping operations, there are thousands of military personnel deployed across the country and only one force gender advisor, another real improvement would be ensuring that there are force gender focal points dedicated to working on gender deployed around the country.